All right, fig lovers. It's Ross the Fig Boss. Unfortunately, I don't think you guys can see me, but we've had some technical difficulties. I've been playing around with getting a webcam to work for like an hour, and I'm fed up with technology at this point. In any case, guys, today's live stream is going to be pretty exciting. We're going to do a little bit of a Q&A at the end, like we always do. By the way, if you're here in the chat, let me know. Just so I can see that you guys are here and know that you guys can hear me and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, we're going to do a Q&A. I really want to know from you guys in this particular live stream, what is it that you guys want to see in terms of content? What kind of videos do you want me to make? What kind of questions do you want me to answer? All that kind of stuff. There you go. Thank you, Gnomed Barrow. Appreciate that. So, we're also going to talk about in this live stream as well some of the changes to my website. We're going to talk a little bit about AI. We're going to talk a little bit about varieties. And particularly, I made a post recently, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the fig trees I'm going to have for sale coming up here. I also just put out a short video, this one right here, which is talking about, rooting fig cuttings and kind of where we're at with this process. And yeah, there's just so many fig trees and so many fig varieties that I'm going to be able to offer this year that to me, I think it's really exciting. And so some of the varieties, maybe some of you guys never even heard of. Maybe some of you guys need some recommendations. Um, Let me see here. Where did I? Oh, yeah. So I wanted to show this post because there's been a there's a list. I've made a pretty good list of varieties that will actually have available in this sale, and it's true. Like I don't I don't think this list is not is out of the question. I think we're gonna have almost all these fig varieties and more over the next couple weeks. So they're coming into form here, ready to be shipped very soon. And that's really exciting. I shipped about, I want to say maybe 350-ish trees so far. And we should have about another 1,000 to come. I think in total this year with my rooting, I might even get close to 1,400 trees, but a lot of these will be for my own personal use. Some of the varieties maybe I won't be sharing depending on the quantities. Because like some of these are brand new to me. Like as an example, Black Mission NL is a new one to me. I've been trying to propagate that one for quite some time. So it's it's I gotta have two copies of each variety, basically. So we'll talk more about that. If you're just now joining us, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions, put them in the chat, and I'll get back to you guys for sure. We will go over all the questions. I want all the as many questions as you guys have. And if any content that you guys want to see, put it down in the chat, and I'll get to it at some point in this live stream. And that's really the main goal of this. But let me see here what's going on with let's start with the varieties real quick. So, like I said, some of the things we're going to talk about is the website, right? The changes to the website. We've got three different directories now. As many of you guys are probably aware, if you've been to figboss.com, all the articles here are basically categorized, and it makes it really easy to find what it is you're looking for. The search bar at the top obviously is very helpful. Um, but if you need to find something like how to care for a fig tree, you just click that jump to button and it'll bring you to all the articles about caring for a fig tree. I actually used AI to help me do this. This was one of the best things I ever did, in my opinion, because now before the website only showed like this thing here. which would be, so many articles that were recent, and that was about it. It'd be like seven of my most recent articles. And then if you wanted to find anything else, you'd have to go here at the top or you'd have to search for it. And it was just so hard to find. Now it's so much easier to navigate. And we did the same exact thing for my videos. I mean, there's literally over 1,000 videos I've created. There's 150 of them here. I got, like I said, AI to help me categorize them, create the HTML code. I don't even know how to code. It did it all for me. It's unreal. It's unreal, guys. I mean, the cost would have been maybe 40, $50,000 if I would have hired somebody to do this or a team of people to do this. And then we did the same thing with the varieties. And I used to have a variety database on the site, but it just wasn't it 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 crashed half the time. And I had problems with it and I would change things. It was slow. Dealing with Wix is just impossible sometimes. But yeah, this is just so easy to navigate. You got all the different letters up here. So if you want to find a variety that starts with R, you just click R. Now here's all the varieties that start with R. I mean, that's just, dude, that's crazy to me. So, and it looks beautiful. It's laid out well. You click on, let's say you want to learn more about Ronde Bordeaux. Well, here's a whole article I've written about Ronde Bordeaux. And some of these, I really tried to clean up some things that were really old on the blog, things that needed attention and work. And, it's just become the blog is such an amazing resource of information. And that was my goal for the beginning. But um, yeah, I really try to lay it out as best I can. And then, of course, if you want, maybe you don't want to go through the directory. You could also go to the top of the page and just check out all the trees and cuttings I have for sale. And each of the varieties, like this is one I just created the other day for a Blava floor. And well, if it wants to load, it'll load. But if you can click on one of these guys, oh no. I've been struggling with technology, like I said, guys. The webcam, just to get that set up, it's not working. Took me an hour of my time. So I can't deal with technology right now. I'm sure a lot of you guys feel the same way. Okay, there we go. So then you can see with whatever variety it is that you're interested in, um, you can also read a description here that might be different than what was in the blog post I showed you with Ronde Bordeaux. And I've tried to update everything as best I can. There's so much old stuff, but it keeps getting updated here and there. And the other really cool thing is I paid a lot of money to upgrade my website on the back end. And so now if you there's a new newsletter. I'm sure some of you guys are on the newsletter. You got the newsletter. I love the newsletter. It's been awesome. I've actually been keeping up with it. It's easy to write them. It's easy to send them out to people. I can't mess it up like I have in the past sometimes. Um, and then, of course, there's also this notify when available thing here, which is basically just you're going to get notified when a product's back in stock. And that helps me out so much because it will send you an email. I promise. They're unlimited as long as you whitelist my email in the in your email service. So if you're using Gmail, just whitelist my email or add it to contacts or mark it never as spam, let's say. It'll always go to your inbox. You'll be notified immediately, along with anybody else who wants a particular variety. Because again, there's going to be so many varieties here. If you haven't seen this post, I would check it out. It's on Facebook, Instagram. I'm going to put out a newsletter soon about all this. And again, there's going to be even more varieties than this. Uh, so lots of opportunities for people this year. So that's kind of the website, right? And that's some of the varieties here. So let's look at quickly some of the varieties that we're going to actually have for sale. um, as well. I want to highlight some of them because I do think that I know you guys are aware, if you've been doing this long enough and you haven't been a part of the fig community, let's say you haven't been part of the fig community for a long time, or maybe you haven't been growing more than five fig varieties for a long time. Well, you're kind of in the dark on this, but for everybody else, which I assume a lot of you guys are in the know at this point, but there is a lot of varieties out there that get hyped up, uh, really are kind of just worthless, in my opinion. They they get hyped up and get crazy prices based on almost nothing. I actually created a really cool article. If you want to read about this, just type in hype on the search bar. You can also find this article on the front on the homepage of my blog, but it talks about hype and noise and scams and basically how to just navigate through, you know, getting fig varieties and understanding what's going on here with these fig varieties. Why is it that one fig that, let's say, is a seedling in California, has a fancy name, we don't really know anything about it, is going for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, you know? Why this is a really good example, and people are gonna, kind of hate me for it, but to be honest with you, I don't shy away from speaking the truth, guys. It's what I do. Um, it's what I've been doing since the beginning here, is just being as transparent as possible. And those Japanese fig varieties, the Mitsu ones, I don't understand it. I'm gonna just be totally honest with you. I've seen very limited photos from them, and if they are going to end up being great varieties, then I will come back in the future and I'll say, hey, look, these actually look like quality varieties that people ought to grow. But generally, at this point, from everything I've seen from them, I don't get it. It's like people have run out of varieties to introduce and hype up that now we're going all the way to Japan. We're trying to find fig varieties in Japan. Who created them? Where do they come from? There's just too much crap, man. And so the old varieties, the ones that have been around forever, are just simply, you're better off. So, you know what? It doesn't bother me anymore, to be honest with you. I just shake my head at this point. And I try to help everybody as much as I can, but it doesn't make sense. And like one of them actually that I do want to talk about today, which I don't understand why it doesn't get a whole lot of attention, is I put it on sale right now. It's Godfather. Now, Godfather is my friend Coop found this fig, and maybe because it is somewhat common that it doesn't get a whole lot of attention, right? The ones that are not common, the ones that are hyped up for no reason, get all the attention. But Godfather is just basically another name for Osborne prolific. It is actually in the United States. Before everyone started introducing all these fig varieties and sharing them with people across the country and importing different varieties, Godfather or Osborne prolific was one of the most commonly found fig varieties in people's yards. And that's for a good reason, right? Celeste, Hardy Chicago, you know, Villa de Bordeaux. These are varieties that are in people's yards. And again, why is that? Well, this fig, in my opinion, has got pretty much every mark of a high quality fig. Everything you would want in a fig variety, this one has. And the cool part about it, and I'll just kind of end with this, is that the eating experience, the flavor of Osborne Prolific is unlike any other fig you will eat. And I really enjoy eating them. They don't have the amazing berry components that some other amazing varieties have, but I promise you, if you are looking for a new fig variety that's not going to break the bank and it's different, like this is it. This is the one. And I wish I had more trees of it that were established in the ground and I was able to harvest fruit from, and even wish I had a bigger tree of it in a pot. Um, yeah, it's just a real treat. Let's see here. What are some other ones I want to talk about? I also want to talk a little bit about some of the Adriatic figs. Um, we're going to learn a lot more about some of them. Like this year, I'm going to learn a lot more about Anconitana, which is it's definitely seems like an Adriatic fig. I can't really place it in that category just yet, but it's certainly very similar to them. And we'll learn more this year. This is the variety I found in the Fig Boss documentary. I'm sure some of you guys had seen. Um, if you haven't seen the Fig Boss documentary, the Fig Boss of Philadelphia, check it out. My friend Ricky created it. It's just an awesome, awesome video. And if you're not hooked on figs after that, I don't know what to tell you. But um, I would say, in my opinion, this is the Incanatana, by the way, that was found in Philadelphia when I did some fig hunting a few years ago, and I got to meet John in the video, and he's just the greatest old Italian man you could ask for. Let's see if I can figure out where he's at. Here's Vera, actually, his I think his granddaughter or niece, one of the two. Yeah, and here's John right here. I'm like trying to, okay, so it's Vera's uncle is John, and here I am trying to talk to John to see if I can learn anything about his particular fig tree, which is right here. And yeah, it's just a really, really nice fig, and we're gonna learn more about it, especially this year. I have a really nice tree of it that is going to be pumping out a lot of figs. And the same thing with, Angelito. Are these Adriatic figs? Are they not? Where do they fall? What's the deal? You got your classic Adriatic fig, which has so many darn names. Is Belvedere in the same situation? I've made actually post about this as well. If you go to some of my community posts on Facebook, Instagram, or even on YouTube. Um, I talk about these Adriatic figs, and I talked a lot about a lot of varieties. I think this is it right here. Yeah, so I mentioned here in this article, what are the differences between Constance, Pastilliere? This was a big one because I know a lot of you guys out there, you might be growing a fig called Las Carreteres and Unan and Uban and maybe even the white cross, or it's called La Croix Blanche, and these got really popular really quickly, simply because they are varieties from Figous du Monde or Thierry varieties. And again, people are just running out of crap to promote. Is really what it comes down to. I remember years ago, at least when people were hyping up and promoting varieties, they at least had like some potential. And they were probably it seemed like the hyped up varieties like a few years ago were actually more legit than they are now. I don't know. Maybe some people can disagree with that, but yeah, I knew right away that Constans was a fig I was growing for years, and I knew that Las Carreteres and Unan, which are really popular now, are synonyms. And I was selling Constans cuttings and trees for like peanuts compared to what people were asking for the other varieties. So it just doesn't make sense. And some people think all kinds of things about varieties, right? Like I said, Pastilliere was a common. I got a little sidetracked here with the Adriatic figs, but we'll get to that. Pastilliere is a fig that people think is so similar to those other figs I mentioned, and it's just not the truth. Yeah, I mean, I can see how someone might think that. It's not like you're totally off base here, but if I go to some of my videos and things on constants, let me give you guys a little bit of just a lesson on a little bit of lesson on like identifying fig varieties really quickly. Um, okay, so here's constants, figs on the tree, and they look so similar to Pastelliere in this current moment. Here is Pastelliere. That's pretty similar, no? And even if you look at the leaf pattern, it's pretty darn similar. What's also really interesting is somewhat of the shape of the fruit is also really similar too, in that they have about the same stem length. The overall shape of the fruit is rather round. Again, similar stem length. Shape of the fruit is round. And even though I'm telling you, if I had the leaf patterns here next to me in front of me, side by side, you'd think, holy crap, they're almost indistinguishable. And what's even crazier, look at the shading here on the stem is starting to get this reddish color. Same thing with Pastelliere. It's almost got like a red stem on some of them. Here's another photo. Look how much darker the stem is on this particular one than that one. So these are the kind of things you look for, right? When I'm identifying a fig variety, I always look for the shape first. The shape is usually a dead giveaway because the shape doesn't change. No matter where you live, you can have a different sized fig. Sure, your figs can be different sizes. Depending on if you put the fig tree in the ground or have it in a pot, it will be a different size. Depending on how established it is, how big the root system is, many different factors. Actually, pruning is a big determining factor in how big your figs will be, and generally how much longer the neck can be. But generally, you look for the shape first. And then you start looking at other things like fracking, coloration, internal coloration. One of the biggest ones that people overlook is a void in the center of the fig. And this is the craziest thing about both of these fruits, Constance and Pastelliere, have a void in the center. You can see that there on Constance. But Constance really tastes more when you eat them, and it's kind of the final thing, really. Um, what do they taste like? You can have all the descriptors and all the things next to each other. You can see there's a huge difference in the color of the pulp. That's obvious to most people right now. Look at the difference. But if you go to Constance and you look at some of the other videos I've published, well, that's pretty dark. Is it as dark or is it the same color as that? Not exactly. Um, Same thing with this fruit. And then you end up tasting them. Like I said, you end up tasting them and you think, oh, well, you know what? They're really not the same. They taste so different that if someone did a DNA test and the results came back that they're the same, I wouldn't believe it. Um, Now, this is actually a really good thing here. You'll end up noticing the more fruits that you compare between the two varieties, well, look, Constance has a much larger stem. Look at that longer stem. Pastilliere doesn't have that stem. Um, Not only that, but the shape of the fruit, even though we said it's similar, isn't exact. So not only is the coloration of the fruit different, the taste of the fruit different, inside and out coloration of the fruit, the shape of the fruit's different, the stem length is different. Almost everything, if you really think about it, is different. I mean, you got to be, how do I put this? You really have to be very, very like you got to have really good observation skills um, to be able to say one variety is the same as the other. And I think that's just it. It's just a little bit of like, all right, let me pay really, really close attention to this little detail. And then I can really come up with, am I right about this or am I wrong about this? What's the truth? And I just find it's hard, because it just takes a lot of time and patience and growing lots of different varieties and studying this and looking at hundreds and thousands of photos of these figs to know, are are they going to be the same? And even the guy, by the way, who finds the damn varieties and is naming them, even he's not coming to the conclusion that they're the same. Or if he is, he's the one tasting them, and he's probably saying, like as an example, Thierry probably said, "Well, this one is similar to this other variety," which he actually did on his blog. Let's show you that. I think it's in Las Carreteras right here, where he mentioned literally that this, yeah, right here. Las Carreteras is very similar to a type of fig that's very classic throughout the southwest of France and very rarely tastes good. The only exception that I have found for several years is La Croix Blanche, few kilometers from Bordeaux, blah, 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 blah. So that's my point, is that he already knows that there is a type of fig that's very classic throughout the southwest of France. So that's my point. Um, these basically are like hardy Chicago types, right? There's 100 plus names for hardy Chicago. Same darn fig. Do they all taste the same? No. Same thing with the Adriatic figs. Finally, we're getting there. I'm sorry, guys. But the Adriatic figs are the same way in that, what exactly is an Adriatic fig? Well, some people think it's a green-skinned fig with a red pulp, and that's just not the case. By the way, you really want to learn about the Adriatic figs? I wrote about them. I wrote about these, and it talks about what exactly they are. And just because it has a green skin and a red pulp doesn't mean it's an Adriatic fig. Now, if it tastes similar to an Adriatic fig and it looks similar to an Adriatic fig, well, we could probably just put it in there and lump it in there together, right? Green Michurinska is one of them. Verdino del Nord or Figoin. These are figs that are not your classic Adriatic fig. They are very different than this classic variety. But I think they're similar enough in flavor, eating experience that they deserve to be, you could lump them in there and I'm not gonna have a problem with it. And there's just so many of them. I think this is the fig right here everybody needs to learn, because this has got to be, this is a lesson for you guys. This is like the best variety. It really is. People, we have all kinds of varieties that are introduced. I'm trying to find more and more new ones, and I think some potentially could, beat the Adriatic fig, and there's certainly some that you could argue definitely taste better or have a better eating experience, like Black Madeira or Col de Dams. I talk about the best tasting figs again on my blog, and these are the varieties we mentioned in this article. You know, um, Actually, this is a cool little thing. Recently, about a year ago maybe, April 29th, well, it wasn't April 29th, I don't think. But maybe it was April 29th of the prior year. But I updated this whole list here of the best tasting fig varieties, and I separated them into different categories, like average. Don't recommend these to anybody. um, that kind of thing. And so there's a lot of information out there if you guys just look. Um, but I think where I was going with this is that you need to learn about the Adriatic figs because they really are the best for most people. They're the best variety you could grow. And I mean that because they taste the best or they taste among the best and they also perform among the best for just about everybody. There's a problem out there. If you live in a really short season climate, you don't have enough frost-free days. Okay, well, this is not going to be the one that I think you're probably going to want to grow. But for everybody else, dry climates, humid climates, this is it. If you live in a super humid climate, this might even do well for you too, because you can harvest these like relatively underripe and they still taste great. This is also something I mentioned. This is an article I wrote. It's late ripening fig varieties for the cold fall weather, extending your harvest. And I mentioned how important it is to have figs that have a short hang time or susceptibility window, how the rain in the fall can affect fruit quality, why we need additional heat. And if you can't get additional heat in the fall, as most of us don't, well, you're probably going to pick them when they're underripe. And so there are fig varieties that taste great even at only 50 to 60% ripens. And the Adriatic fig is one of them. So even in the fall, when they're barely ripening, you're not getting a whole lot of production out of these trees that's any good. It's one of the best varieties. And I'll just finish this last little point. Um, I did a couple articles, wrote a couple articles. I did a couple articles. I wrote some top fig for top five fig varieties for Richmond, Charlotte, Atlanta, Nashville, and Houston. These areas along the South and the Mid Atlantic that kind of goes across into Houston from the coast all the way across into Houston. This is an area that gets a pretty good amount of rain, and I explain why I would have certain fig varieties for these areas, and I explain in here your best option is going to be the Adriatic fig. Here's the constraints. Now, I ended up going with Green Michurinska instead because the more I thought about it, the more I realized I want to get some other varieties in there, like Colonel Lippman's Black Cross and the Col de Doms. You also got to throw Smith in there. I mean, come on. And I also threw Black Celeste in there because it's the tastier version of probably the most rain resistant variety in existence. So, considering all that, we need something that does produce Breba as well. None of these figs produce Breba, they're all Unifera. So, Green Machurinska does that. Not only does it get you the Adriatic category of eating experience, you get the Breba. Again, I'm limited to only five fig varieties. Would I only grow five fig varieties? No. Are you kidding me? And then again, same thing for my where I live, Philadelphia, Baltimore, DC, Boston, New York City, these areas. You could even stretch this out into like Ohio and other parts of the Northeast. But those people in like colder growing zones that are not like along the coast and don't have any concrete maybe around them to help buffer the cooler temperatures in the wintertime, you guys are not going to be able to rely on Bravas. And a lot of my decisions for these cities or these areas around these cities is based on Brava production. You know, Grima Chirinska, Moro de Caneva produce Brava, and there's of course White Adriatic, which will produce a um, a solid Brava crop. But I guess even if you were in Ohio and you were, further out in the Midwest and it was cold, I would still protect one fig tree. I've talked about this recently. Shout out to my friend Joe. This is it right here. This is a thread that I started on Fig Fanatic, and I really broke it down because some of you guys out there just don't appreciate fig trees in the ground enough. And we're at an all-time low right now because we just had the worst winter in a decade. We just had the worst spring in a decade. And you might be thinking, well, this is so bad. This is impossible. Why would I ever plant a fig tree in the ground? But this is as accurate as I could come up with here in terms of the temperatures and the results of what it was like growing fig trees at my location over the last decade. 2016 was a pretty crazy polar vortex that wiped out a lot of fig trees, even in the city of Philadelphia that were surrounded by concrete. But for most of these years in here, we would have had really great results with fig trees. I did have great results. It takes a couple years after. So this year, even though it was really brutal, we're gonna need a couple years to get back to our, back to business. But once we're there, next year, of the trees I had protected this year, which was quite a few, we just need one more winter, and these trees are going to be back on track like nothing ever happened, and they're going to be producing like crazy. So that's 2 winters that they survived with no damage. If that happens, you're going to thank me. And so even if you had one fig tree, I know a lot of us out there, we've got hundreds or many of them. Just protect one, man. I'm telling you, just do it. You might be a little lazy, maybe you're a little old at this point. I don't know what the case is, but I'm telling you, just protect one and do the best you can with it. Spend a few hours out there if you have to. You got a fig tree that's really big too. You can still protect it. I promise. You can. In fact, I've seen so many different methods out there. I might try, well, I don't have anything huge to protect right now, but I wish I did. I wish I had a big fig tree. I wish I had just protected one, and I think I'm going to do that probably from now on. I got hundreds to protect at this point, but I'm protecting as many as I can every year, and going forward, I will at least protect one fig tree to the fullest extent, even if it's 10 feet tall. I don't care because even if it's that big, we can get it close to the ground. Fig trees are pliable, and we can figure out a way to cover the thing. One of the ways is actually to use ratchet straps, and I talk about this kind of in this post here. Shout out to my friend Joe, figfanatic.com. That's his forum. He's a really good guy, and there's a lot of claims I made in here, but basically we talk about how protecting them is easier than you think. You can protect a row of fig trees way easier than you think, and you can protect a large tree easier than you think. And so basically what you can do is you can get a really heavy duty stake and then ratchet strap some of the trunks of your trees or scaffolds of your tree closer to the ground, and it makes it so much easier to cover it and protect it and insulate it. And as long as it's positioned somewhat horizontally, you're way better off. So just choose one of them. Um, Now back to the Adriatic figs real quick. As I was saying, these Adriatic figs, they have so many new names that just keep cropping up. And here's some of them. I don't know what's going to happen, if they're going to be unique, if they're not going to be unique, if it's just green Askia or Verte or strawberry Verte or whatever, Adriatic JH, and then someone just renamed it and gave it a fancy name. That's not out of the question. And the reason for that is because this is going to lead into something really cool. I can't wait for this. If I wanted to introduce a new fig variety to all of you, everyone in the fig communities, um, and I wanted to lie to everybody, and I wanted to say, well, you know what? I've had this fig variety. I want to get as much money as I can out of it, and which, but I don't really have one, right? I don't actually have a new fig variety, right? If that's the case, um, what I would do is I know what fig varieties people cannot identify properly. And so it would be really simple to just introduce a new Adriatic fig that people usually can't identify that well. And then I would just say, hey, here's a fancy name for this Adriatic fig, but in reality, I just took cuttings of my Adriatic JH tree and gave it a fancy name. And I'm telling you, you can get away with it. People have gotten away with it. I'm not accusing anybody, but I bet you somebody did that. I'm sure it's been done many times. And there are other fig varieties just like this that this happens to because there's just a lack of understanding. Now, this leads me to something really important, which is AI. I had created the thumbnail for this video with the help of AI. I basically just said, hey, I need this image of figs, change it to 16 by 9 aspect ratio, which is what we need for a YouTube thumbnail, and then add the text at the bottom, which it did, yada, yada, yada. Okay, that's nothing wrong with adding text or changing the aspect ratio of a existing image. But this original image that I had here many actually a couple years ago, I was playing around with Grok, and you can see down here in the bottom right, Grok AI, which is uh, Elon Musk's AI thing that he's still doing. And so I was using it, playing around with it, and seeing if I could how good the image generation was. So I actually got Grok to create. I told it, I said, create an image of a fig tree, close up of a branch of a fig tree with figs on it. I want to see the leaves. I want to see the fruits, and show me one that's blue. Create an image of blue figs on a tree. Then create one that's red. Then create one that's yellow, green, purple, whatever. And it spit out. I bet you this would be a really cool little experiment. I could create a social media post. I'm not going to do this, but I could. I could create a social media post of these four images right here and say, "Hey guys, look, these are four fig varieties I found. I went to X, Y, and Z spot, and this is their names. And one of them's called one one of them's called I don't know, um One of them's called Super Amore Blood or something. I don't know. Something stupid. What are all the dumb names people are coming up with? So, and people would believe it. That's the crazy thing. I could post these images and people would think that this is real. And it's happening all the time. It's getting worse. And there's not a whole lot we can do about it because eventually, I'm hoping AI is going to regulate itself and people are going to be able to determine without um, being an expert with technology and understanding, hey, this is fake, this isn't fake. As somebody who isn't a fig expert, look, right? Can you tell that this is not real or real? One of the ways that you can actually tell is look at the branching. The branching doesn't look right. Doesn't look like a fig tree. What about the figs? This one here is hanging off of what? What is this? It's not even attached to the tree. Most of them aren't even attached to the tree. Look at this one. This is a weird branch. But here's the crazy thing. Create an image of figs on a fig tree. Make sure the image is close up so that I can see a full branch of figs and leaves of ripe figs on the tree. Here's the thing. Here's the crazy thing, right? AI is so good now. Before, it didn't even know the difference between what ficus you were looking at. I would tell it to create an image of a fig tree, and it would give me an image of Ficus palmata or the rubber fig or whatever. This is like a legit fig right here. Holy crap. I mean, that looks as legit as you can get, except there's like leaves that are not here. But someone could have just removed a bunch of leaves and then taken a picture of it. Look, the figs are even attached to the tree in the right spot. Does anybody know what fig variety this is? Holy crap, man. It looks real. If I had to guess, I would say that this was an Osborne prolific fig. They took Osborne prolific, crossed it with Hardy Chicago, and then pumped out this image here, and it actually looks pretty legit. Let's get it. Let's get it to show. Cut open one of the figs to show the inside. Let's see what the inside looks like. All right. You guys get the point, but like it is it's a little scary. It's just we gotta learn how to identify this stuff because not just identify the varieties, what varieties what, all the synonyms, but also just like, oh well, this used the other image. So you can see how it's not perfect, right? But there you go. That's it just used its imagination and said, oh, this is what the inside should look like. And the inside looks pretty good. Does anybody want to eat this fig? All right. Okay. So I know that you guys had questions. We're gonna get to all that at the end. Um, I would appreciate it if you guys had any questions. Just keep putting them in the comments, and we'll get to them at the end. I do want to go over a couple more varieties, and then we'll go over the questions really quickly. Um, I will say this: some people that I hear so much about genetic testing all the time. They're like, "Oh yeah, this person wants to do genetic testing, and Ross, why haven't we tested all the fig varieties, and why don't we know what's synonyms and what's not a synonym, and blah 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 blah." And like, oh my God, so much crap about genetic testing. I don't know where any of the results are, other than what was done by an actual study, right? An actual study that was done by like a university or the USDA. There's a couple. A friend of mine in Italy actually has submitted a lot of his material to, I think, the University of Pisa, and then they tested his collection against a lot of other germplasm stuff in like the USDA, and I think Hungary did a similar thing as well. And I don't know where the results are that beyond that, because I've been hearing about genetic testing for forever. Is it happening? Is anyone doing it? Guess what? It doesn't matter to me. I think it's great. I think if we had some genetic testing, that'd be awesome. I think we got some new neighbors. Anyway, but I don't need genetic testing because I've already gone through all the fig varieties. I know how to identify them, and I've put it out here for you guys to see for free. You just have to type in synonym, and here it is. Here's the article. And you can go down here and see. It's not perfect. I did this years ago, like 8 or 9 years ago at this point. You know how much crap I got for doing this? Here it is. Some of these varieties you never even heard of the names anymore because they don't exist. They never caught on. It makes it easy. Just the other day, someone asked me, Ross, what's the difference between Col de Dame, Gris, and Noir? Just the skin color. All right. Sometimes they get excited. You guys know that. All right. Well, let's see here. By the way, we're almost at 80,000 subscribers. All right. Let's talk now about just a couple more varieties. I'm just going to try to focus on some of these and get through this list. Because I do think some of these varieties don't get a whole lot of attention and there's not a whole lot of knowledge about them. Castle Tricino. This has become one of my favorite figs. I think I've talked a little bit about it when we do the article about humid. Um, Every year when I update this article about the best fig varieties for humid climates, we did mention this one in the article, but I think in the video that we did, in the live stream that I did, but I haven't written about it because it's not that resistant to rain, but or at least it seems like it so far. But it is extremely early. Let's just say this. I think it's the best tasting fig that ripens as early as you can get, basically. But I don't know how early it's going to be exactly. Um, if it ripens, like let's say alongside Ronde Bordeaux and Celeste and those varieties that ripen as early as possible, then Castle Tricino would be the best tasting fig in that category. So that's pretty cool. And I did a video a long time ago, and I thought it was the wrong fig. Basically, I thought it was something else. I thought it was De Ponte, and I mentioned here in this video, it's the Ponte, it's the Ponte, it's the Ponte. But then I went back and I changed the title because in actuality it was Castle Tricino. This is just it's an amazing tasting fig for sure. Um, I've been getting a lot of hits for Figo Roxo too. I wish I had more of those available. I don't think I'm going to have any this year. Um, Cavalieri, by the way, is a great fig. I know a lot of people appreciate it, and there's a lot of people that don't know about it as well yet. This is a very, very tasty fig. What are some other ones here that I would like to? Um, I'm excited for Pecan. This is a French variety. I did a little bit of research, genetic research this year, and Pecan seems to be somewhat related to like Celestes and some of the more hardy varieties. But then I read Bode's new book. Where is Bode's new book? He sent me a copy, and I think he mentions in there it's not as hardy as some of the other varieties, which I was surprised based on the genetic stuff. See what else we got here. I don't know if people really appreciate De La Gloria enough. It ripens a very late Breba, as Montserrat Pons mentions in his book. And I think Tia Pena is the same thing. If you go to his website or his book, you'll see that the Brebas ripen really late, and they're just really, really good Brebas. And they fill that gap he mentions in here. It is in different language, but he does mention that it fills the gap between the main crop and the Breva crop. There are three ripening windows for the Brevas. There's early Brevas, mid-season Brevas, and late season Brevas, just like the main crop. There was a lot of Smyrnas that I acquired this year. I had reacquired them. I had grown them in the past, wasted a whole bunch of my time, realized that they were Smyrnas, and then got rid of them. But because I'm now hand pollinating a lot of my figs, by the way, if you're not hand pollinating your figs and you're really serious about this, you should start doing that. This video here really talks about this. Your figs will taste better. Almost all of them I pollinated tasted better, even just a little bit. Some of them, get really crazy in how much better they taste, but generally you should just um, you are going to see a small increase no matter what. And it almost seems like there's very limited downsides to that. It's just the time involved. You get to grow a male fig. You get to get the pollen from the male fig. You got to make sure you got the right male fig. And also, the figs become a little bit bigger and more plump. And just generally because of that, they have problems um, with splitting potentially a bit more because it changes the shape. So there's something there. Uh, But yeah, so this DFIC 0023 Palmata hybrid, this is one of them that I acquired. There's a bunch of really good Brava producers that this year I've planted or last year I've planted. I told you guys about my success with Bravas for years now. So we're planting a number of them like Dauphine, Blanche de Douce Saison, so many different types of Desert King. It's insane. I have probably like 6 or 7 Desert Kings. One of them that's really cool is Uncle Corky's. Uncle Corky's is really something I looked into because it's basically a Desert King that will ripen its main crop. If that's true, That's insane. So I'm trialing a number of Desert Kings. I got one from Paul Gauchi. Shout out to Paul Gauchi. My friend Bill sent me that one that he got cuttings when he visited him. Hoops Desert King, which is one that Fruitwood has, slightly different. They say slightly different than other Desert Kings. There's Desert King from Fruitwood, which I also have. So just to compare the both. Um, Probably more your classic one. There's Norman's Yellow. Man, there's so many of them. I'm not thinking of all of them here. What else we got? Um, this is a fig. I don't know how much I've talked about it. Oh yeah, I think we did mention this one in it's now in here in the best fig varieties for oh my God, I didn't put it in here, did I? This might have been one that I was so tempted to put in there and then just decided last minute, let's just give it one more year. Yeah, interesting. You put Hunt in there, Montesino Rosso. By the way, Montesino Rosso, great fig. Sauche, great fig. Sauche's been around for a long time and no one gives a crap about it. I can't even believe it. Yeah, I guess I didn't put it in here. But for a Stera Decon review, if you look at it in Pons's book, it don't look like much. It don't look like much. This fig, it seems like to me, dries on the tree really, really, really well. I had some this year that were exceptional. Here's one right here. Here's two videos. Let's see what these turn into. It's got a great shape. It ripens well. It ripens at a good time. Oh, you know what? I didn't get it on camera, but I had some of these because I had gotten them on camera, or some of them already on camera. I didn't continue filming, but like right here, you can see this is a pretty good fig. I would say that's above average. Looks great. To me, I thought it had a great texture, tasted great. Maybe not blow your socks off good, but some of these that I had, ooh, and I don't think I got them on camera. This one here was really good. This was like a supercharged Celeste. But yeah, I think this variety is way, way, way underrated. Awesome fig. Shout out to Ryan, I think his name is, in Louisiana. That guy is really the one I think who sort of made this fig popular. Um, he was on it a long time ago. Let's see. We're gonna have a good amount of Hativ de Argenteuil this year, guys. That's really exciting for me because I know a lot of people have been asking about that for years. Um, a lot of the figs that were hard to root this year, I got them. We were successful. Um, Another one I want to highlight because they just don't understand this fig. Same thing with Godfather, like we talked about earlier in this live stream. Marseillaise is unbelievably good. It's one of the best fig varieties, just no doubt. It just is. It doesn't split. It can split, but I've almost never seen one split. And they ripen to perfection every single time. They dry on the tree. They have a great texture. They have a really fruity flavor when they start to dry on the tree. It is excellent, this fig. This one's really ugly, but they will dry on the tree, and not many fig varieties will do that. Campanile does it, Teramo does it. Marseillaise, man, just so misunderstood. I don't understand it. Um, Also, I really love Noir de Malone. This is another one where I feel like if you're a collector and you're actually serious, you're a serious collector, and you don't have Noir de Malone, you need to get one. You're missing out. It's like not having a Paradiso fig. It's like not having a Col de Dame, basically. That's how I see it. Let's see here. This is a really cool one. My friend Ciro in Italy grows this one. It's called Pecchiolo Bianco. He's got photos of it on Facebook, and um, I've been trying to grow this thing for years, man. I mean, years. And I just couldn't get a healthy tree of it, but got a lot of copies of it now, and they're all really healthy. So I should be able to share some of those with people. What else? I'm trying to, point out the ones to you guys that are a little bit underrated, underappreciated. Silvano's one I just listed for sale, and somebody bought it. This is an awesome fig. This really is an awesome, awesome fig. I can't wait to eat more of these. It's got a really unique leaf pattern. I had thought maybe originally when I got this that it could have been an English brown turkey fig, but I have found that not to be true. It has an awesome texture and it's really big. Like it's an actual big sized fig that still tastes great and actually performs well. So for figs that are of that size, that's pretty hard to find. I would say it is the best tasting. I think I even said it in here. If you put all the fig varieties that produce larger figs into a separate category, Silvano is so far the best I've come across in terms of eating experience and rain resistance. And I think that's true. They're also not massive, massive, They're not like golden rainbow big, but they are big consistently. Um, a medium sized to large fig. Safenio Preto is another Smyrna I acquired to try to pollinate them now and see what they're like. So we got the Smyrnas, a bunch of Smyrnas, just to pollinate them and see what the deal is going to be. Um, in terms of UC Davis Caprifig, I think it's an awesome Caprifig for producing pollen. Got plenty of Brabus this year on one of my trees. Another one I planted in the ground, and that's just going to be there probably for cuttings every year. Uh, but what I really need to do in this breeding process, this is going to be interesting because if you guys are aware, I've been doing breeding, and that's something we'll have to update you guys on as we get a little closer. But I just published this video. Not a lot of people saw it, but we were in the greenhouse here, and I was showing you guys how I germinate figs. This is about collecting pollen here and hand pollinating them. And so I got a lot of seedlings to come up this year. But one of the things we need to do is we need to get the caprifig that produces pollen from Hardy Chicago, Celeste, or one of your favorite, whatever your favorite female fig is, because UC Davis Capper fig has unknown genetics. I don't know what its parents are. I don't know where it comes from. I know it comes from the fields at UC Davis, but like, and it tastes great. It's the other cool thing about it. It'll produce edible main crop. That's actually really tasty and very, very late, but um, I don't know anything about it. You know what I mean? Like, it has a whole set of genetics, and so if we want to get the best offspring possible from breeding, we want to be as close to the original, the female variety as possible, right? We have our favorite female varieties, Celeste, Heart of Chicago, whatever it is. Well, if we can produce an offspring that's a male from those varieties, well, now that male's genetics is going to be closer to the favorite female fig that we like and want to breed with. Then we take that fig, that male fig, and then breed it again with our favorite female fig. And now we have better offspring that's closer to the original female fig. So, in all honesty, all this breeding I'm doing here for a couple years is going to be just about getting these male capper figs. It's not even going to be about finding some special female fig that just by random chance is gonna do well for me. Oh, there is one last one I'll talk about. Valcamonica Green. Um, this is a really did I have I talked about this at some point? I don't think so. If I go to Figs for Fun, it doesn't work. Mm-mm. Wow, that is so strange. Okay, so if I go to the variety database that John Verdict has on Figs for Fun, there's a fig that my friend Bill had acquired many, many years ago from John Verdict. Bill deserves all the credit for this, but it's called Communa Small Black. You see it here. It says the cuttings came from Italy and may have been mislabeled as is clearly not a dark fig. If you look at the photos of it, it's a green fig. So clearly there's an issue. Now, I was contacted by Bill, and after I did some research, and I actually know the people who I know the person, excuse me, who imported it, and I know the person who exported it from Italy. And I was able to speak to them both and email them, and I basically tracked down the real origin of this variety and what its real name is. Because obviously, Comuna Small Black doesn't make any sense. It's not a black fig. But it turns out there's three varieties that were imported into the United States from a collector who found these varieties in a valley in northern Italy. If you look at what Val Camonica is, it's a valley in Italy. Uh, Also, by the way, even though this was Comuna Small Black, we eventually realized by talking to these two individuals, there are three varieties, and the real names for the varieties were Val Camonica Long Green, I think it is, Small Black, and Large Black. So I looked up some history of what's Val Camonica mean, and it's a valley in Italy. And this is about where it's at right here. Zoom out on the map. Here's Lake Garda. Here's Lake Cuomo, and it's kind of just in between the two. Now, where exactly in this valley does it come from? Who knows? But what I know about this area, because I've been here, is that it is rather similar. The climate's rather similar to the climate in the Northeast. And I've been working very closely with my friend Mattia Ometsili. His nursery is in Lake Garda at the very top here in Riva del Garda, if anyone's interested. And he's got a lot of testing that he's been trialing, a lot of varieties that he has been doing his own fig hunting. Talk about someone who's been doing fig hunting and really trying to figure out and preserve the history and genetics of Italy. He has looked at over 1,000 trees at this point, and he has amassed a huge collection of trialed a lot of varieties now at this point, and has a really good selection of varieties that he has shown me in videos and photos and catalogs and things that look really, really impressive. In any case, Comuna Small Black comes from this area, and a lot of varieties from this area, like Moro de Caneva. Caneva is somewhere over here. It's in the mountains of this same area. Um, we already know how well the Caneva does. Verdolino is a local variety of Riva del Garda and the whole Lake Garda region. That's another variety that does super well. And I can go on and on and on about different varieties. This whole area of the Milan, Verona, northern Italy area here, if you can find fig varieties growing here, there's a good chance they're going to do really well for you. And Comuna Small Black has done that. My friend Bill has just raved and raved and raved about its rain resistance, how well it dries in the tree. And it's one of them figs that you really need to let it dry, because if you don't let it dry, similar to Marseillaise, and you're not patient, it's not going to be that special. But this fig last year, not this past winter, but the prior winter, was very hardy and actually had produced Breba for me last year. So it's Bifera. They ripen at a very high quality. There is one issue here, and you can see it in this photo. The eye can be open enough for ants to get in there, and it seems like the ants like this variety a little bit more than others. Bill has told me that birds ignore this one though, so it's like a trade-off because it has the green skin and they can't really see it. But yeah, if the ants can get in there, they can start doing stuff on the inside and mess up the quality. But generally, it's an amazing variety, and I'm gonna have plenty of them to share with people this year. So that is the little spiel here, guys. Let's talk about these questions. Let's see what you guys have to say, and we'll answer everything, and then we will. This is probably the best way to do it. Yeah. All right. Good. I'm glad the sound was great because we just did this for such a long time, and if the sound wasn't good, that would not be good. Sean said, "Do I have a local pickup for my trees?" Yeah, Sean, I was hoping to get to Squares and Fair this year down at Summers Point, New Jersey. I'm thinking it's still possible sometime this June. If it is possible, I'll let everybody know in the newsletter, and I'll get back to everybody in you know in that world. Yeah, I'll just let everybody know. Social media, whatever it is, you'll definitely find out, and that way you can come by and pick up the trees if I decide to do something like that. I'm also going to be at Alt House Arboretum this year. That's in, I think, Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And so I'm going to be giving a talk there this year, and I will bring lots of trees. If people have orders and things that they place with me ahead of time, but that's way in the future, like in August. Yo, what's up, Sam? Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Someone asked me if I play tennis regularly. Not anymore. I play pickleball on a regular basis. It's easier on my body, and I think tennis is a better singles game, but I think pickleball is a better doubles game. And the main reason for that is because the points don't end as quickly in pickleball. It's just not as difficult. It's not as physical. It's not as there's not as much technique. There is a lot of technique in pickleball, but generally you have to be really, really good in tennis to have a long rally. And in doubles, generally at higher levels, the points end so quickly. So in pickleball, you just hit so many balls that you end up having these awesome rallies that I don't play singles anymore. So why would I play tennis? Okay, Known Vero said sealing tree cuts apparently highly debated topic. Do you use a sealant? I don't use a sealant, but there is something to be said about that. Um, that I might start doing it. I might start trying it because I had found this year. There's a video I haven't published yet, but one of the main reasons why my fig trees died to the ground this year was because obviously it was very cold. But wherever it was that I should say there was a pruning cut that was made, there seemed to be more winter damage there than other parts of the tree. So if I made a cut, let's say on a branch that's 4 feet high, well, the damage radiated downwards from that cut down the branch. Um, and it just seemed like it killed that tree. And I just think pruning them is not good if you live in colder zones, like at all. I don't think we should prune them at all. If they need to get to 20, 30 feet, let them. But especially in its younger days, just let them be, protect them, don't let anything get damaged. And maybe that will be enough to set the tree up in the future to where you can start to do some pruning. But generally, I think it's a bad idea, and sealant might help with that winter damage. It's tough to say. It seems like the pruning creates some kind of entry point for the cold to get in there and make it worse than it would be normally. So, borers, I don't know if it will help with borers, but generally just getting any dead wood out of there is your best bet. Trooper said, what are the hardest fig varieties to roots besides Kind 58? Man, that's a really good question, and I don't really have a great answer for you. I'll tell you which ones are super easy. Campaneri is so easy. LSU Tiger, Celeste, Moro de Caneva is really easy. All the Adriatic figs. I think Cative de Argentile is pretty difficult. But then again, I mean, I have a lot of them, you know? So how hard could it be? I think it comes down to really your methods and your techniques and what you're doing. I think you can get any fig variety to root very easily. I think they're all very easy to root. So I think that's why it's a difficult question because they're all easy, you know? And you're asking me which ones are the hardest of the easy ones. Um, Dan said if you were building a charcuterie board, you want to display the best flavor profiles of each category of tree, which one would you choose? Berry, molasses, honey, complex, 10 max. It's not just about the flavor categories too, Dan, because it's about the textures as well. So it'd be hard for me to ignore certain textures, like the Cold Adam's got that awesome texture right there. I think you probably have to throw in like Black Madeira. Um, Godfather's definitely unique. I think Barb Alone has got a unique texture to it. That's tough, man. Tough question. I gotta sit down and really think about that for like a long time. What about, let me see here, because I got the, if you added, you gotta add a fig with a purple pulp. That's gotta be a must. Because they have more of like that blackberry, blueberry flavor. So I would add a, like your typical sugar fig. I would honestly, Little Ruby, it's gonna think I'm crazy, but Little Ruby is unique, man. It's the figgiest fig. It's the most sugar fig you ever ate. And not that I mean that it's like super sugary. I mean it's like eating a date almost. Um, Honey figs, oh yeah, Marangiana viola is awesome and unique. Zafiro, same thing. And then I'd probably add in there, like I said, Barbalone, and that would cover that. Sugar figs, there's got to be another sugar fig with besides Godfather and Little Ruby that I'm not thinking of. Hmm. The problem is there's not a lot of sugar figs because a lot of sugar figs taste actually LSU purple's pretty unique. A lot of the sugar figs taste that have an extra berry component. And so what I did was I added the berry flavor profile. I would say Cavaliere should be in there, or Hativ de Argenteuil should be in there too, in terms of like uniqueness. Um, Someone should make a list of everything I just said and send it to me. I'd appreciate that. But yeah, so like in the berry category, there are sugarberry figs. As I said, most sugar figs have like a berry component to them, especially when they're well ripened. And if you go, you know what's crazy too, Dan, is if you start pollinating your figs, oh my God. Like I'm not even talking about the ones that are pollinated because I've been sent figs from the fig hunter. Shout out to David Burke and his family. Some of them taste insane. Like you can't, I don't even have words for what I was eating because it was just so amazing. And it's the same thing with Sacred Origins varieties. Although a lot of them have crazy names and crazy flavor descriptions, if you pollinate them and you grow them in a dry soil and they're ripened at a high quality, I'd be willing to bet you would actually get some of these crazy flavor profiles. It's just so hard to achieve that. A wild fig tree is going to produce fruit quality way different than a tree that you're constantly watering and babying and feeding, and especially a tree out there in the wild that's getting full sun and just, in a crappy soil. It's like had to fight for its life. I mean, yeah. But you've got different types of berries, right? So you get the blackberry, blueberry ones, the cherry ones. Like I said, Cavalieri and Hativ hit the cherry figs. Then you can probably throw in there the raspberry ones. Interestingly, the most strawberry-like fig I've ever eaten is a new one to me called Dominica Blanca Negra. That was like that was really cool. That was a really good fig last year, and I'm gonna be sharing with some of you guys in the future. It's just gonna take a little bit. Other unique ones. There's so many. Yeah, it's like a perfect world question, but it's so hard to you know what's also interesting is Martinenco Blanca or this fig here, Rosa de Goni, or even Ronde Bordeaux. They got a lot of that resinous flavor in them, and that's a whole different thing that a lot of varieties might not get, like that plum flavor. LSU Tiger's got a unique skin texture. Neurchilla de Elba, oh yeah, it's like coffee. It's got a bitter skin to it, and it almost tastes like you're eating coffee. Um, yeah, that's I think that's enough. There's a lot to go there. Mark said if you considered shipping to the Philippines, sorry man, it's just too far. Even if I were to ship cuttings to the Philippines, they wouldn't make it. I don't think they would still like be of good quality, by the time they got there. It's just too far. Like it's too much time to spend in the mail. And if I could ship them, that far away, I'd have to pay out the wazoo for shipping costs just to get them there quickly. So I guess if somebody's willing to pay for you know, maybe. Dan, growing fig trees in pots is going to be different than growing them in the ground in our areas, especially if it's a little, short season and stuff. But it's a hard question. Um, what rootstock would I choose? What rootstock would I choose? The most vigorous one, especially for a Frankenstein fig. Oh yeah, the most vigorous variety I can get my hands on. Um, Appreciate that, Gnomed. I'm glad you're enjoying it, man. Slamrock, do you think figs can grow with organic fertilizer with the same vigor? Oh yeah, it's just more expensive and it takes more time for them to break down. Matt said, "Will I have more UC Davis Capra figs soon for sale?" Yeah, I should. Should definitely have some this year. They might take a little bit though. I think they're a little behind, if I'm not mistaken. Gnome said, "What can we do to support your mission of exploring and educating the public on figs?" Man, that's a great question. I would just say sharing my information with other people. That's all. Yeah, you can definitely slam rock, even if it's in a pot, if it's in the ground. I assumed you meant in pots because you can definitely do it in the ground, and you can definitely do it in pots. It's just takes a lot of time. One of the fast release fertilizers you can use is Alaska fish fertilizer. There's another brand and fish product that people like more. I forget the name of that one, but yes, you can do that. Do I have Smith figs for sale? Yeah, I'm gonna have some more for sale. There's gonna be plenty. Um, I just sold a bunch. I think I sold like four or five of them or something like that. So it's just gonna take a little bit more time. A lot of more trees are gonna be available in like 2 weeks. I'm gonna have more listed probably this weekend, and really a lot of them are gonna come in 2 to 3 weeks from now. What's my input about Green Goblin? I hope it's good. I hope it's different than an Adriatic fig, is what I hope, actually. I know it's going to be good. The question is it going to be different enough than Adriatic JH? Scott says he uses figs in his mash. What kind of mash are you talking about? Uh, Imran Seed said, Ross, have you ever grown Noir de Carome? Yeah. It's a synonym of Black Mission, which is a really popular fig we have here in the United States. Wei Tang said, "You're trying Randino on the ground. Good luck. Let me know how it goes." One of my friends down in Virginia really enjoys Randino. He said. James said, "Ross, do you bury your grafts underground? Think they'd be top. Yeah. Well, if I plant a grafted tree in the ground, it would die, and I've already done that, and they have died. But yeah, you could graft one, plant the graft union super deep, and I bet you it might, if you can get the scion to root itself in that length of the first season after you plant it, you should be good. But that might be really tricky and probably not gonna work most of the time. Crazy Gardner said that he's in the Ozarks, or they said they're in the Ozarks, and the figs do amazing. That's good. B Noble said I'm in Zone 9B Phoenix. If you could plant three varieties, what would they be? Well, they're gonna be the best tasting fig varieties. I would probably grow Green Michurinska, a Col de Dame, probably Violet de Bordeaux, because I highly value the Breba crop so much. And if you don't have Breba producers, you're totally missing out on the first crop. And the first crop is like, I love Brebas now. Especially if you lived in Phoenix, they would do really well. I'll type them in the chat because you may not be able to spell them. And Hmm. I bought 10 cuttings for my parents in Philadelphia 2 years ago to the coast of Central California. All of them do well in pots, one in ground. I just don't know if they're mission or turkey. Well, if you want, you can just send me pictures of the fruits when they're ready. Cut them in half, take pictures of the fruits, and send them over, and I'll tell you what they are. Zone 6B said, I bought a first year cutting on Facebook. It was rooted in dense garden soil. How do I safely transition to an area mix without damaging the roots, and when do I do it? Now's a great time to repot any fig trees or even plant them. I would not repot a fig tree into the same sized pot. I would also not repot a fig tree just to replace the soil. That needs to be done when things are dormant. So if you want to do one of those two things, you have to wait till the tree goes to sleep. But right now is the time to get them into a larger pot. And what I would do is turn the pot upside down, hold it in one hand, and with your other hand, take the pot off of the root system so that the root ball stays in one solid mass. Do not disturb the roots, do not disturb the soil, and then put that into your larger pot and put soil around it that you want that's more airy. Wait tank said when you dig out your fig out of your current soil, you will damage the roots. Better to, yeah. Da, da, da. Hello, G Mama. When you transfer, oh, thank you, Ripple Effect. Appreciate the $5, man. Your top 10 for zone 9B Houston. Well, you may have already figured it out because I got five of them right here. Where did this? Yes. I got five of them right here that I talked about. And that's a really solid five. If I were to add more to that, what I add? So I would add more Brava producers to this list for sure. So first thing that comes to mind is either Moro de Caneva um, or Violet de Bordeaux. So one of the two. Then I would also add Or I would add both, honestly, because you could also add Desert King, which is a really, really good Brava producer, and the Bravas taste great, just like the other two varieties I mentioned. So you could do that, and I probably would do that. I might even add all three, but I would also add another fig variety called Hibernenka. I might even add, um, we got Black Celeste already in here, actually. And then for your final one, and what you could do is just go through the best fig varieties for humid climates. This is a really, really in-depth article that I wrote. Any of these are going to do well for you. I'd probably get a Hatib de Argentile. There's so many of them in here. Um, it's kind of hard to narrow it down, especially if you think about what's available and what's not available. This is actually something important. I would probably get one that will produce late Braba as well, like Malo Vermella, Jouali Noir, or Beat Ramon. They would be really good too. It's so, man, there's so many factors. It depends on your budget, depends on what's available. Matt said a little late, all love from Maryland, no problem, man. Dauphine is similar to Jolly Tiger? I don't think so. Jolly Tiger is very different than any other variety, I think. I don't know. I've never even seen Jolly Tiger fruits, actually. I think Jolly Tiger is just there for leaves. Crazy Gardener said, I got a tissue culture Black Madeira from Profig. Does anyone know what version it is? I'm not sure what you mean by version, but Brian has done a really cool thing and tissue cultured Black Madeira to make it healthier. And it has become healthier through tissue culture because when you tissue culture plants and you sterilize them basically, and that removes any fig mosaic virus, and certain varieties have the virus more than others. I had found over the years, though, if you just rejuvenation prune them, generally that's going to get rid of the virus, at least the symptoms of the virus. Maybe not the virus completely because it's still within them, but oh, that's really cool, man. The University of Pisa took a lot of samples this spring from Pralo's orchard to test varieties for similarities. That's awesome. Resistant to salty soils, huh? What is the purpose of that? I wonder if that's because people are using too much fertilizer. Wei Tang said, I did read a lot about this article. The Ronde Bordeaux split a lot in my zone 6B. Yeah, they can, like 50% of them will split here. Were you asking a question? I'm not sure if there's something more to that. I don't think I see anything else from that person. Let me know if you want to answer, if you want me to answer a question. Juan's from Santa Cruz said, "What's your input on white baccaw?" Well, it looks like a really cool fig. It could be yellow niches. I don't know. I'm not sure. I've read a little bit on it of the controversy, but I'll know right away if it's yellow niches or not. That's for sure, because you can tell right pretty much by the leaves. Yellow niches is a palmata, Ficus palmata hybrid, and it'd be pretty difficult for me to not recognize a fig tree as a hybrid of Ficus palmata because it's just so different than Ficus corica. So um, I'll know almost immediately. The DFIC 0023 palmata hybrid fig, You can tell right away that that's not Ficus coerica. Wobble Jiggle said, "Do you recommend any orchid bark mix for potted fig trees?" Why do you need an orchid bark mix? I know you want something that's like well draining. That's very helpful. But orchid bark mix, you might be getting in the territories of too well draining. I use 100% mushroom compost, but it's going to be hard for you guys to get that in other parts of the country. I live in near the mushroom capital of the world, which is Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. And these mushroom growers there, they grow mushrooms on a substrate that they create, and then they compost that down, and then they sell it to garden centers and stuff around here, and I get it delivered, and it's honestly amazing soil for fig trees. It's amazing soil for my garden. It's just awesome. Um, what else? Did I answer this already? Yeah. This is a good tip. I surrounded the silty core from the old pot with an airy mix in three 5-gallon pots. Blah, 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 blah. I get rid of the silt. Okay. Wait Tank said anything on red Lebanese bass. It seems like a pretty good fig. I'm not entirely sure if what I had was red Lebanese bass. I planted it at a neighbor's house and they're having incredible results. Um, Not very rain resistant though, but the figs are huge and they kind of look like raspberry latte. So I'm not sure if it's raspberry latte or what, but yeah, I'm sorry. I can't help you out there more than that. Um, yeah, thank you, Matt. Thanks for placing an order, man. Um, I'm not sure what you mean by this. Three different nations, though. I recently emailed you the difference. Couldn't really make out the difference between the names. There isn't a difference. The names were given to me as they were given to me, and so I don't change the names when they're given to me. It's just a good practice. It's really important, actually. So you don't have mix-ups and things, and people can track what you got and what you don't have, and et cetera, et cetera. So, um, what I try to do is to make it easier for people so that they can understand what it is they're actually buying. Is if you go to some of the trees I'm selling, like let's just do Adriatic as an example. Well, here's an Adriatic fig that I say, hey, look, this is an Adriatic fig, but the variety name that it was given to me as was Mercedes Gem Unknown. Now, I did actually do something a little bit this particular spring or this fall, excuse me, when I had my cutting sale. I sold Celeste cuttings because I did a big Celeste trial and there was no difference between all the different Celestes I had. This right here. So if you ordered Celeste cuttings from me, I don't care what the name was and where it came from and what crazy name the fig had. It's just Celeste. And in order to alleviate some confusion, I just sold it as Celeste. And so there, that's the one time I've ever done that, but it's just there to avoid confusion, basically. I won't have any Coldedon Blanc, unfortunately. I wish. I just can't get a damn tree of it established in the ground. James said Noirdi Barbantine, very good flavor, healthy tree. Yeah, it is a good tree, no doubt. DT said thoughts on Sesota Sicilian. Yeah, it's an English brown turkey fig. It's just fancy name for an English brown turkey. Um, English brown turkey is not a fig that I grow anymore. I have one tree of it, Susser George, that I got from Big Bill, and that's just to see if I'm wrong about my thoughts on the on those figs. But generally, they're inferior in almost every way. There's hundreds of varieties out there, and I can't think of a single reason why somebody would choose English brown turkey over hundreds of other varieties. And it doesn't even matter where you live because, well, what if you want it for Brava production? Maybe instead of growing Olympian, you just grow Violet de Bordeaux, and then you're way better off. The figs taste better, they have more rain resistance. You might even get more Bravas. Oh, well, Ross, what if I want a hardy Brava producer? Well, then you just plant Moro de Caneva or Green Michurinska, and you're going to have way better fruit quality. You're going to have probably even a hardier fig tree or equally hardy, and they're going to do way better in the rain. So there's almost there again. There's no reason for it, um, and really the rain resistance of Olympian, which is another one that's an English brown turkey. That's the one you hear about all the time. The flavor is not as good as other varieties. It's not bad, but it's not as good as other varieties, and the rain resistance is very poor. They uh, they will ferment quite easily on the tree. What do I think about this rooting medium? Limestone, peat moss, perlite, vermiculite. I don't think that. What does that add up to? That's 5.5 by volume, zero point 0.5 parts crushed limestone. Okay. I think that's too well draining, if you ask me. Like I said, I use 100% compost. So you could use 100% peat moss. I wouldn't, but you could. Um, to make it easy, you could just buy Pro Mix HP, and that would be a good um, that'd be a good medium. Making your own mix, in my opinion, is just a waste of time. But I have too many plants, so I don't have time for that. Just acquired Nixon Peace Fig, rooting like crazy. All right, I don't know much about that. Freddie said I haven't heard you touch the Medici Reserve figs. Yeah, there was three of them. Two of them didn't look that good. I think my friend Bill likes one of them. I had one of them that was really good, and then I think it died, or it looked like it was going to be good, and then it died. But I don't have any info, and it's hard to get them. And I think one of them is even just lost at this point. If someone has good information on any of these, if you can show me that, hey, look, Ross, this fig's really good, you should grow it, let me know. Crazy Gardener said, can you cross a creeping fig with a common fig? I don't know. You'd have to get pollen somehow from either species, and it would have to be pollinated, and then the offspring would have to, you know, be different. That would be interesting, especially a creeping fig. Hmm. Okay, Trooper said, thanks for the answer. Yeah, no problem. It could be the method since there's so many. Why? Sandy said, why would last year's green unlignified shoot survive the winter while thick lignified hardwood branches in the same tree died of the ground? Seems totally backward. Yeah, unlignified shoots should not survive the winter, so they probably were more lignified than you think. But the older wood could could be damaged in some way, and that's why it took more winter damage. That's my guess. It's hard to know without seeing photos or evidence of what you're explaining, Sandy. My figs keep falling this year. I've cut it and there's more buds coming out. Okay, good job. They fig trees love to grow in all kinds of crazy places the more you cut them. And that's kind of what happened here with the frost that we had. It took out some of the what do you call it? The new growth at the top, and then as that was damaged, it started leafing out pretty much everywhere. It's crazy. T-Bone said, "What size are they, and how old are the trees that you're selling in the sale?" Well, I've been selling them at pretty much the same size the whole spring so far. But this is right here a good idea of what it is that you're going to be getting. You'll see the images here at the top in just a minute, but they're all in 1 gallon size pots, in tree pots, 4 by 9 inches about, and this is about what you'll see here. See the tree pots at the bottom, and then there's about, it depends on the tree, but it could be, anywhere from like 5 to 18 inches, 6 to 18 inches of new growth. And what's important is the new growth is healthy, it's growing, it's actually growing. That's another important one. It doesn't need nutrients, the leaves are not pale, and it's fully rooted out into that 1 gallon size pot. And usually, based on how much top growth there is, you can ascertain there's a certain amount of fruit development. So I just, most people are going to be really serious about selling fig trees. They're going to be sending you fully rooted out fig trees in whatever size they're selling. And usually that size that they're selling is just a 1 gallon size pot. That's it. You can get them at larger sizes, but you probably can't get the, really interesting varieties at a larger size like that. Miles said, "Where am I located? I'm in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia area. Will you come to the fourth annual Fig Palooza in Greenville, North Carolina?" Hmm. Unfortunately, Greenville, North Carolina is very far away, but if I was in the area at that time, I definitely would. And I would recommend everybody go to the fourth annual Fig Palooza. No, I really do. I actually recommend people go to these fig festivals. They're a really nice, cool thing to do. Um, you'd be surprised, and I'm sure your wife or your spouse would appreciate it. Because instead of telling them all this crap that you're interested in, you can talk to somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, and you'll have a great time. Ryan said, "What's the best time of the year to pinch? What's the day length play a factor? Would the day length play a factor?" Um, well, pinching can be done for many different reasons. And the main reason that people had historically thought about doing it was to induce the fruits. But I don't know if there's really a huge benefit of doing that anymore. Many years ago, I thought that there was, and I just don't think it's all that necessary because the main way to get earlier ripening figs is to preserve the top third of a fig tree's branches from the prior season. That's it. Now, if you prune your fig trees the wrong way, and again, you remove the top third of the branches, or if the winter kills the top third of the branches, your figs might ripen 2 weeks later than normal, and you might see a benefit from pinching. You might not. Um, It's really hard to say because I don't experiment with that anymore because I use pinching for other reasons. I use pinching for setting up the form of fig trees, getting them to branch out. There's other things that you can do where you can pinch off the new growth at the beginning of the year that can help the breva production. It's possible that pinching can affect the hormones of your trees in a way that can help them to fruit, like stubborn trees. But the main reason I do it, other than the form, is actually a technique called rivers pruning, which can increase your production by over 100%. And I think I know 100% is conservative. Um, but this requires a lot of expertise, the right fig tree, and the right location for this. So it's kind of difficult, but just to answer your question, if I was looking at it from rivers pruning perspective, the best time of the year to pinch is about 120 days prior to when I want them to ripen, the second crop of figs after pinching. And then would the day length play a factor? I bet you it would. The day length does a lot of interesting things to plants, but in the case of fig trees, I know for a fact, although I don't know if there's any science to support it, but I can say with a lot of certainty that they root easier around the solstice. So if you're doing air layers or layering in general, doing it around the solstice, something there is better. And then after the solstice, it decreases. The rooting decreases quite a bit. That could have something to do with just the fact that it's so dry around here after the solstice, but yeah. Sandy said, "Do I have any new information or news about Borda Barraquer?" I wish I had more information there, Sandy, for you. Um, but I think I got a couple to root this year, if I'm not mistaken. It's going to be a long time before I get any solid information on it. Assuming I have some rooted this year, I'll put them in a larger pot this year, get them to the right form by the end of this year, and then next year I'll get to taste it. So you're looking at not this August or September, but next August or September before I'll have any conclusive evidence of anything. Um, Hoop said I heard mixed things about LSU Scott's Black. I don't think it's great for humid areas. If you pick them early, it's a good fig, and you can pick them early. So, um, it'll pump out figs, and it's a great variety for a lot of places. But generally, if you had it in a humid area, just there's better choices. It's just it's tough because I don't people keep growing it, you know, and because it has the LSU name attached to there's some kind of weird fixation there. Um, yeah. Sandy said if I had to choose four fig varieties from each flavor category, which varieties would you personally pick based on flavor, productivity, cold hardness, and overall? Sandy, unfortunately, the problem with your question is that your zone only gives me a small glimpse into what your growing conditions are like. Your zone only um, your zone only tells me how cold it gets in the wintertime, like the extreme winter temperature on average. in zone 7B is going to be 5 degrees Fahrenheit to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. In zone 8A, the average winter low, the extreme winter low, is 10 degrees Fahrenheit to 15 degrees Fahrenheit. This is actually really important to just determine, well, can fig trees, get to a large size where you're located? Do they need winter protection where you're located? Is it better growing them in pots? But it doesn't tell me anything else. Like, what would be really important to know is how many frost-free days you have, what the temperatures are like in the summertime. Do you live in a mild climate? Because, there's zone 7B. You can have a zone 7B climate off the coast of New Jersey, or you could have a zone 7B climate in like the deep south. And you could have a zone 7B in like the mountains of Georgia. And that's a very different place than the Jersey Shore. So it has a nice peach flavor. That's good. I What do you call it? The yellow Nietzsche's does have a nice peach flavor too. And that's again another one of those things, we don't, like I talked about earlier in this live stream, we don't know where, we don't really have a great history of information of yellow niches. And because we don't have a great history of yellow niches, and so many, maybe even tens or hundreds of people haven't fruited yellow niches and can show pictures and leaf patterns and all kinds of observational accounts of yellow niches, that we don't really have a whole lot of information on it to even compare it to white pecan. I'm not saying this is the case, but I am saying that it is possible that if I wanted to introduce a new fig variety, I could take cuttings from yellow niches, call it something totally else, and nobody would be the wiser for many years. Miles said, "Did you see the video I made doing an air layer, a water air layer? And have you tried it yet?" No, I didn't see the video there, Miles, but there's a lot of really cool ways to layer fig trees. Oh, you're growing Medici 1 and 3, huh? That's good. Jason said he's got my first fig plant today. Oh my God, your first fig plant is an Angelito? That is just crazy. Wow. Well, good for you. My first fig plant was a Cadota fig, and it was not very good. I almost didn't continue growing figs because it wasn't good. Freddie said, I bought LSU Huye recently based on your recommendation. What about it is the selling point for you? Thanks for taking the time. No problem, man. What is the selling point of LSU Huye? Well, in my opinion, it is a really high quality fig, and it does a lot of things that are important. First of all, it ripens early. Um, it produces a light Breva crop, and it is a very hardy variety. So that's important. All three of those are really important. And then when it comes to the actual eating experience, they can dry on the tree. And I think you're better off with LSU Huye and a drier, more mild climate, like maybe the Pacific Northwest, than you would be where I'm located. And the reason for that is because your figs are going to dry on the tree really well, and it's actually a really tasty fig. if they dry on the tree. I've had some LSU Huye figs that were just unbelievable when they dried on the tree. But pick them early, they're not that impressive. And so if the rain comes in, you got to pick them a little early because they can split. LSU tried to breed a better version of Celeste, which Celeste is the best fig for humid climates that I know of. And they didn't create any offspring that was any more rain resistant than Celeste. So I know a lot of people in Louisiana, uh, they love LSU, and I don't blame them. There's a lot of things to love about LSU, but you just gotta look at the facts. In fact, LSU Huye, when you plant it in the ground, it's much better in a pot. LSU Tiger and LSU Huye both are better in pots because the fruit size stays smaller in a pot. When it gets a bigger root system, or even if you had a really, really big pot that you put it in, it would get a really big root system and then the fruits would be bigger. And because they're bigger, then it would be less rain resistant and less split resistant. Les for Loan says, what do you think about the stuff Sacred Origins working on? I really want to give that cherry pie a shot. I've talked a little bit about Sacred Origin earlier in this live stream. Um, the main message, I think what I said was that basically the pollinating figs can yield amazing results. And so even though there's a fig called cherry pie, I don't think it's going to taste like a cherry pie, but it's probably going to taste pretty close. And I think a lot of the crazy names and descriptions that you'll hear out there for certain varieties, they might not be warranted, but if you grow them in a really dry place and you pollinate your figs, there are some crazy eating experiences within Ficus corica. I mean, just mind blowing. I have actually not tried really any of the Sacred Origin varieties other than Honey Plum, I think. And Honey Plum turned out to be pretty good. Honey Plum's a great fig, I think. We're gonna get more this year, and I'm gonna be able to confirm my suspicions. But it seems really like a great fig. Um, and I know a lot of people actually really like that one. If I was going to give cherry pie a shot, it would need to cost a lot less. I don't need to spend a lot of money on a fig tree that requires pollination, most likely. I don't know if it does. So excuse me if that was not if it was confirmed common. But there's a difference. Like I'm growing a bunch of Smyrnas here this year just to taste them and to see if they taste great when they're pollinated. And I eventually would like to try a fig that's supposed to taste like cherry pie, assuming, you know, these descriptions tend to be correct more often than not. But there's a very slim chance that it will do well here, perform well here. We don't know when it ripens. I don't know how it does in the rain. Um, in fact, there's a lot of Smyrnas out there that um, I'm growing now, but I didn't just go out there and get every Smyrna or San Pedro fig that required pollination I could find. I was very selective about which ones I thought would actually potentially do well in a humid place. Um, so I reacquired a fig called Sanguinato, which can split, but it does seem to have the right shape and everything, and so therefore maybe it actually is it might be pretty good. Who knows? I think we're at the end here. Is this right? How are we at the end already? Uh-oh. I guess we are at the end. Hmm. Okay. All right. So we are making sense here, I guess. I wasn't sure if we were if the stream ended or something. Um, and I'll say this one last thing about like pollinating figs. There are as a category of varieties that are common, but they should be pollinated because even though they will ripen without pollination, they will not taste good without pollination. They'll taste like cardboard. So I think there's a lot of those, and we're going to start seeing more of those come about, especially with all the California seedlings and stuff. T-Bone said, any suggestions to ensure ripe container figs by the mid of end July in central New Jersey? Yeah, get a greenhouse. And yeah, that's the main thing right there. Other than that, just give them a lot of heat, a lot of sun. Get them out there awake as early as you can. Protect them from late frost. And think about your pruning. Your pruning is going to be the main thing that controls when they ripen outside of temperatures. Country Boy Capital said, good afternoon, everyone. Is it a good idea to give my newly rooted fig cuttings once they start to leaf out, or should I wait to give them sunlight? Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's a good idea to give them some light now because that could increase the temperatures and help them root a bit faster. They don't need it right now, but definitely some light will help you. Yeah, there's a chance that they need the light too. I know a lot of us say they don't need the light when they're not forming any leaves, but it could help them in some way that we're not really aware of biologically. Unknown said you should add a filter option on your site to show only in stock options. Yeah, do we not have that on the site? Filter by product type. Yeah, I guess you're right. I tend to fix this whole thing here for everybody on a regular basis so that they don't have to go to the next pages. You know what I mean? Everything back here is usually out of stock unless I haven't gotten around to actually fixing it. But yeah, it would be nice to have an option like that. I think there's a reason why I don't have it, but I need to add that. You're right. Bitmask said planted the Lola Martin and Panavina White, Northern Virginia. Mostly afternoon sun. No advice other than water them on a really regular basis this year. Add compost on top of them. Add a lot of compost and give them a lot of water. If they're growing, obviously you need to water them after you plant them, but continue watering them. And the more water you give them, the better they're going to be, the faster they're going to establish themselves. And then this winter, protect them and protect them for like not just this winter, but next winter as well, and guarantee that they're going to survive the winter with no damage. I mean, really be a little bit thorough and protect them. Crazy Gardener said, "How's our Rourke's flavor?" I don't like it as much as Celeste. I'm going to be honest with you. So it's the same thing. I think it's not even an improvement to Celeste. Um, so far, I don't even think improved Celeste is an improvement to Celeste. Some people claim that it is, but we're gathering more details on that. No problem, guys. Appreciate all the questions and stuff. If you have any ideas for videos and things, put them in the chat. That's really something I wanted to hear about. If you had a video idea or something you wanted me to cover. But I am going to go after Sandy's question here. She said, back to the question above, if you had to pick 4 fig varieties from each flavor category to plant in ground in your zone, which ones would you personally choose? Well, we've already got my top 5, which I have discussed in this article and the reasons why. Spey is not a caprifig. I grew it many years ago. So yeah, I discussed these the top 5, but you want for each flavor category to plant in the ground. Man, that might be a little too difficult because I'm in a zone, Sandy, where they either die or survive. You know what I mean? So it's for me, it's more about just which one's hardy and which one's not. I can't really get picky necessarily. Um, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't really help. I can't answer your question that much better, unfortunately. If it was in pots, that'd be a different story. And if I was in your zone, it'd be a different story, I guess. But we already had mentioned earlier, as Dan had mentioned earlier in the live stream, uh, his question was, what are some of the more interesting varieties that I could grow? Where is he? Where is this? Where is this man? I don't see it. Oh, have I not been seeing some people's messages? Weird. I don't know. We did talk about it, Sandy. Sorry, I'm kind of losing steam here, and I think we should probably end the video. Jason said, if you were novice fig grow in California, would you grow a copper fig? I think I would. Yeah, if I had plenty of space, absolutely. But anyway, guys, that is the end here of the stream. Really appreciate everybody who joined in, who commented, watched this whole thing. If somebody watched this thing all the way through the end, really appreciate that. And if you guys are interested, like I said earlier, we're gonna have fig trees for sale. A lot of them are gonna start coming in more and more and more over the next few weeks, and it's a really exciting time. So thanks for watching here, guys. We'll see you for the next video. All right, take care.